Good evening and welcome to today's live session for the subject Urban Governance and Development Management. This is session 11 for the 11th week of lectures, and this is what has been covered so far in the 11th week of lectures. So this would include uh, first lecture on enhancing the city image. So in the previous week also you had a brief overview on what constitutes a city's image. What do you pay attention to? So further in detail, what are the different types of city images or certain examples that you talk of commonly that has been discussed, and what are the things you look for whenever you discuss about city image? Those things have been discussed. Next lecture would be Our next four lectures are largely on communication and interpersonal skills that are essential for city managers or for anyone who is involved in uh, any kind of communication, negotiation, or decision making regarding any urban issues or regarding any uh, urban development phenomena or practices. So this is what has been covered so far in week 11 lectures, and now we'll solve some questions related to what has been covered so far in week 11. So the first question is, the image of the city is a book written by, and then you have four options: Norman Foster, Jane Jacker, B. Corbusier, and Kevin Lynch. So uh, the book The Image of the City is actually written by Kevin Lynch. So Kevin Lynch was an American urban planner and an author, and he was a professor at the MIT where he taught for over 30 years. So Lynch is best known for his work on the perceptual form of urban environments, and was one of the foremost urban designers and urban planners of the 20th century. So his book, The Image of the City, was published some in 1960, and it is considered as a seminal text in the field of urban planning, architecture, and environmental psychology. So in this book, Kevin Lynch introduced the concept of imageability, which is the quality of a physical object that gives an observer a strong, vivid image. So when we talk of the image of the city, or how we perceive image of the city in terms of concept, or in terms of environmental psychology, or from the planning of the city, or from the city's architectural quality. So this book, The Image of the City by Kevin Lynch, is a seminal text that you can refer to, or you can study as a reference material in order to better formulate or understand what forms the image of the city, or what are the components that you can focus on whenever you are trying to form a certain city. So uh, in this book, he explored how people perceive and navigate the urban landscape, and he introduces five key elements that people use to construct um, mental maps of the cities. So these includes paths, edges, districts, nodes, and landmarks. So paths are just routes along which people move throughout the city. Then edges are boundaries and breaks in continuity. So it can be edge of a road, or edge of a plot of a building, maybe borders uh, in fencing, or borders which have been planted, so green borders, things like that. Then the districts. So districts are areas that are characterized by common characteristics. Then nodes. Nodes are strategic focus points which tell you the orientation of a city, or tell you the orientation of places or districts or edges with respect to key strategic focus points. Then there are landmarks. So landmarks are easily identifiable physical objects in the urban landscape. So, this work by Kevin Lynch was groundbreaking because it emphasized the importance of human experiences in urban design rather than just focusing solely on the functional or aesthetic considerations. So, Lynch's ideas have had a lasting impact on urban planning and continue influencing how we think about and how we design cities today. So, this is what is uh, I think this question is talking about, which is the image of the city and who the author is. There are other options mentioned, which include Norman Foster, Jane Jacobs, and Le Corbusier. So I've just given a brief description about each of these people. So Norman Foster is again a British architect and a designer, and he's closely associated with the development of high-tech architecture, and he is a key figure in the British modernist architecture. Then you have Jane Jacobs. So she is an American Canadian journalist, an author and a theorist, and also an activist who influenced urban studies, sociology, and economics. You might know her from her book, which is The Death and Life of Great American Cities, in which she argued that urban renewal and slum clearance did not respect the needs of city dwellers. And she talks uh, in detail about how the city and how the people interact with the city and things like that. Then you have Le Corbusier. So Le Corbusier was a Swiss-French architect, designer, and painter, and also an urban planner, and one of the pioneers of what is now regarded as modern architecture. So these are some other peoples that have been mentioned in this question. So just a brief description about these people of significance in the field of urban planning or architecture. Okay, moving on ahead to the next question, which is what is the first step of the process of decision making? And then you have several options: identifying the problem, identifying the solution, analyzing the problem, or developing the alternate solutions. So for this, you need to refer to this diagram that has been discussed um, in your lectures. So this diagram tells you about the decision making process and what are the different steps of the process and how do you move about in the decision making process, which are the first step and which steps follow. So the decision making process is basically a structured approach to solving problems and making choices, and it consists of 6 key steps that guide individuals and organization through complex situations in order to make decision for certain objectives. So the process begins with first identifying the problem. So this is a crucial first step where one recognizes that a decision needs to be made, and this involves clearly defining the issue at hand, understanding its context and scope, and then establishing why it is important to address by pinpointing the exact nature of the problem and the desired outcome. And decision makers set a clear direction for the entire process during this process. Next, next, like once the problem has been identified, the next step comes, which is analyzing the problem. So the problem must be thoroughly analyzed. So this steps involves digging deep into the issue, gathering all relevant information and data, and identifying the root causes by understanding the factors that contribute to or influence the problem, as well as any constraints or limitations that might affect potential solutions. So decision makers gain a comprehensive view of the situation that they are dealing with in this phase. Then we move on to the next step. So with a clear understanding of the problem, the process then moves into its creative phase, which is developing alternative solutions. So this is where imagination and innovation come into play, And the decision makers brainstorm a wide range of ideas, considering both conventional and innovative approaches. So they explore different perspectives, seek input from others, and outline the pros and cons of each potential solution. So this step is about generating options without any judgment, or by allowing for a diverse array of possibilities while brainstorming for the various alternative solutions that are possible for this particular problem or for this particular case. Then comes the fourth step, which is selecting the best solution. So in this phase is where the critical thinking takes the center stage. So decision makers evaluate the alternatives that they have generated and establish criteria for assessment, such as cost assessment, time, feasibility, and potential impact assessment of each of the alternative solutions that have been devised. So each option is carefully weighed and against all these criteria, and with consideration given to the potential risks and consequences. So this thoughtful analysis then culminates in the selection of the most promising solution. So with that, we come to the fourth step, which is selecting the best solution. So this is where critical thinking takes sorry then we like we have already selected the best solution. Then we go to the next stage, which is concretizing the decision into action. So once we have selected the best solution out of all possible options available to us, uh, it is then time for action. So the fifth step then involves converting the chosen solution into a concrete plan. So this includes developing a detailed strategy, allocating necessary resources, and assigning responsibilities and setting deadlines. So uh, in this case, the plan needs to be clearly conveyed to all relevant stakeholders, and everyone needs to be integrated in the communication process in order to ensure smooth implementation of the solution that has been selected. Then comes the final step in the process, which is the follow up of the action that is taken. So, this ongoing phase involves monitoring and evaluation, and after the implementation of the decision. So, decision makers track the progress of the project, and they measure the results, and they identify any issues or obstacles that may arise during the planning or implementation part, and they remain flexible, making adjustments or corrections as necessary uh, while learning from the follow-up action. This step also involves reflecting on overall effectiveness of the solution and learning from the process to improve future decision. So these are the six key steps of the decision making process. So while in this diagram, these steps are presented in a linear fashion, it is also important to recognize that decision making in practice can sometimes be an iterative process. So new information may emerge or circumstances may change, requiring a return to earlier steps, and this flexibility then allows for continuous refinement and improvement of the decision making process, and it helps to ensure that the final decision is an informed and uh, as effective as possible. So I hope it makes it quite clear that what are the processes associated with decision making, what are the various steps. I think you can solve this question very easily. And moving on ahead to the next question. The next question is the three ego states in any transactional analysis that is propagated by Eric Berne are what? And you have several options. The first is friend, acquaintance, and associate. The second is boss, colleague, and subordinate. The third is parent, adult, and child. And the fourth is supervisor, inspector, or guide. So basically, this question is talking about the transactional analysis, which is a theory propagated and developed by Eric Berne, who was a renowned psychiatrist and academician, and he is credited with developing the transactional analysis theory that explores the fundamental dynamics of communication. So, central to the transactional analysis theory is the concept of ego states, which Byrne refers to as, or he defines the ego states as a set of consistent and coherent patterns of thinking, feeling, and behavior. So these ego states are integral to every individual's personality, and these ego states serve as foundations through which people communicate and share ideas. So according to Byrne's theory, any communication can be broken down into essential components, uh, or essentially two essential components, which are the stimulus and the response. So the stimulus initiates the interaction, while the response is how the other person reacts, shaping the flow of the conversation. So transactional analysis thus provides a structured way to understand human interactions and the underlying psychological processes that guide them. So the psychological theory that examines human interactions and communication through the lens of three distinct ego states. So these ego states, according to Byrne, are present in every individual and play crucial roles in how we relate to others and ourselves. These three ego states are the parent or the exteropsyche, the adult or the neopsyche, and the child or the archaeopsyche. So, uh, the parent ego state or the stereopsyche represents internalized messages, attitudes, and behavior that we have learned from authority figures throughout our lives. So, these are learned primarily during childhood, and these we learn from parental figures. So not just our parents, but any kind of figure like important mentor or sometimes even grandparents, sometimes older relatives who have acted like a parental figure in our lives, our teachers, educators, and many other people who have uh, formed key who have um, given to us our key internalized messages, attitudes, and behavior during our childhood. All these things that we've learned from them, these form our parent ego states. So these can be divided into two key types. Again, first is the critical or the controlling parent. This aspect embodies the rules, regulations, and judgments. So it can be restrictive, demanding, and often critical, and it's based on the critical rules and regulations and judgments that we have learned from our childhood. Then the second type in this ego state is of the nurturing parent. So this aspect is caring, supportive, and protective, and it offers comfort and encouragement. So the parent ego state often operates on autopilot as we react in this ego state. We react based on our already ingrained patterns rather than present moment analysis. So, how we react to the stimulus in the parent ego state is based on what we have learned in our childhood, what is already ingrained or what is already internalized through our childhood learning that comes out, and we this ego phase we sort of function on an autopilot. So that is the exterior psyche or the parent ego. Then there is the adult ego state. So the adult ego state or the neo psyche is the rational and logical part of our personality. So it processes information objectively and makes decisions based on facts and mediates between the other two states. So the adult state is not influenced by emotions or from past experiences, but instead it focuses on the present situation. It is responsible for problem solving, reality testing, and making informed choices. So when people from the adult state or in the adult ego state uh, make responses or make communication, the individuals tend to be more reasonable, balanced, and able to see situations from multiple perspectives instead of just uh, reacting on an autopilot mode based on their pre internalized information. The last is the archaeopsyche or the child ego state. So this ego state represents the emotional part of our personality, and it encompasses feelings, reactions, and behaviors from our childhood. So similar to the parent state, it is subdivided into two subtypes. First is the free or natural child. So in this state, our response is more spontaneous, curious, and creative. So it is more expressive and more uninhibited. And then there is the adapt child state. So this aspect develops in response to parental and societal expectations, and it can be compliant and can have aspects of people pleasing or rebellious and defiant or other similar aspects depending on early experiences of a person's childhood. So the child state is a source of intuition, creativity, and spontaneous drive and enjoy. So, in the transactional analysis, Byrne uh, posited that our interaction or interactions with other involve these ego states, and a healthy individual can flexibly move between these states the as it is appropriate to the situation. Problems arise when people get stuck in one state or when transactions between individuals involve mismatched ego states. So, understanding these ego states can help individuals become more self aware and improve their communications and relationships. For instance, recognizing when we are operating from a critical parent state can help us shift to a more constructive adult state in a professional setting. Similarly, accessing the free child state can enhance creativity and joy in appropriate contexts. So, Byrne's theory provides a framework for analyzing interpersonal dynamics and personal growth. By becoming aware of which ego state we are operating from, in which kind of situation, we can make conscious choices about how we interact with others and how we respond to other people and to the challenges that we are facing. This awareness can lead to more effective communication and can lead to healthier relationship with people and greater personal satisfaction. So, transactional analysis has been widely applied in psychotherapy, counseling, education, and in this case, what we are studying it for is organizational development. So it offers us a practical tool for understanding human behavior and fostering positive change. So this is what this question is talking about. I hope this is clear. How you can answer this question quite easily. Now we move on to the next question, which is related to feedback. Sorry, which is related to several options or several things like the feedback loop, or even though relational development model and relationship model. So basically, this question is asking that the technique that helps people better understand their relationship with themselves and others, created by Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham in 1955, is what? And there are several options. First is the feedback loop, second is Johari loop, the relational development model, and finally the relationship. So how we go about solving this question, I'll just tell you about each of these four things that the question has provided, and then based on this you can select and evaluate that which of four things talks about people's relationship with themselves and others. So first option is feedback loop. So feedback loops are an important aspect of closed loop control systems, and they can be applied to a variety of fields, and they describe how the system responds to changes and maintain or alter their state. In this case, we are probably studying feedback loops, the case of communication or interpersonal relationships. So in communication, positive and negative feedback loops exist, and they refer to cycles of interaction where the responses either amplify or dampen the flow of communication. So a positive feedback loop occurs when the response reinforces or amplifies the original communication. So it encourages more of the same behavior, creating a cycle of escalating interaction. This can be constructive or destructive depending on the context. So an example, constructive positive feedback loop can be like a teacher is praising a student's question, encouraging the student to ask more questions, which in turn fosters more engagement in the learning process. An example of positive destructive loop can be like in an argument, if one person raises their voice, uh, the other responds in kind, and they also raise their voice, and the situation escalates, leading to a heated talk. So these are two examples of positive feedback loop. Then we have the negative feedback loop. So in a negative feedback loop, uh, diminish like in a negative feedback loop on the other hand, it diminishes or moderates the original communication uh, by stabilizing the interaction. So it helps bring balance by reducing the intensity or frequency of a particular behavior by providing a negative feedback about the behavior. So it also can have both a constructive and a destructive type. So example of a constructive negative feedback loop can be like during a disagreement, one person calmly responds to another person who is angry, which de-escalates the tension and leads to a more constructive conversation. An example of a destructive negative feedback loop can be like when a constructive feedback is ignored or it is dismissed repeatedly, it leads to disengagement or kind of a withdrawal from the communication. So again, both the types of loops are crucial for understanding how communication patterns either build momentum or stabilize because of the nature of interactions that are taking place. So this is what the feedback loop. Coming back to the second option, which is the Johari window model. So the Johari window is a psychological model that is developed by Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham. It was developed in 1955. It is a simple yet powerful tool to improve self-awareness and enhance interpersonal relationships. So the model is represented as a four-quadrant grid, and each quadrant represents different aspects of individuals' personality and how they are perceived by themselves and also by others. The name Johari is a combination of the names of its creators, Joe and Harry, so Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham. So let's explore each quadrant of the Johari window, what each quadrant means. So first is the area or open arena. This quadrant represents information about you that both you and others know. So it includes your public behavior, your knowledge, skills, and anything else that is readily apparent or has been openly shared. So as trust and communication improve in relationships, this area tends to expand. Then is the second quadrant, which is the blind spot. So this quadrant contains information that others know about you, but you are not aware of it. So it might include certain habits, mannerisms, or behaviors that you don't realize that you are exhibiting, but people around you are catching on to those habits, mannerisms, or behavior. The feedback from others can help reduce this area and increase self-awareness. Then is the third quadrant, so the hidden area or the facade. So this area represents information you know about yourself but choose not to share with others. So it might include feelings, past experiences, fears, or secrets. So as trust builds in relationships, you might choose disclose some of this information, which leads to shrinking this area. Then there is the last unknown area. So this quadrant represents aspect of your personality that neither you nor others are aware of. So it might include untapped potential, unconscious behaviors, or repressed feelings. So personal growth, new experiences, and therapy can help uncover parts of this area. So the Johari window model is dynamic with sizes of quadrants changing based on self-disclosure, feedback, and personal growth. Uh, what we seek to do with this kind of model or this kind of understanding of a personal self and getting feedback from others is first is to expand the open area by increasing self-disclosure and seeking feedback from people. Second is to reduce the blind area uh, by being open to feedback and self-reflection. Third is to manage the hidden area effectively by sharing appropriately as the trust develops in a relationship. And finally, is to explore the unknown area through new experiences and self discovery. So, Johari window is a very useful tool for understanding people's relationship and how to seek feedback from your collaborators, people who you are working with, and from other people who are related to you. And it has several applications. So it can be used for personal development as it helps individuals understand their relationship with themselves and others. Can help promote self-awareness and growth. It can help with team building. In organizational setting, it can improve team communication and trust by encouraging openness and feedback. It can help in leadership development also. Leaders can use it to understand how they are perceived, and it can be used to improve their communication and relationship building skills. Then it can be used in counseling and therapy also. So it provides a framework for discussing self-awareness and interpersonal dynamics in therapeutic setting. It can also be used for conflict resolution. So by uh, promoting open communication and understanding of different perspectives, it can aid in resolving conflicts. It can use for cultural awareness even. So in cross-cultural interactions, this tool can help individuals understand cultural blind spots and improve intercultural communication. So the Johari window model emphasizes the importance of self-disclosure and seeking feedback in personal and professional relationships. By working to expand the open area, individuals can help improve their self-awareness, enhance their relationship, and function more effectively in various social and professional contexts. It is important to note that the process of opening up and seeking feedback should be gradual and appropriate to the context. But this is a good model to understand and navigate uh, this self-disclosure and feel. So I hope that is clear. Next is the relational development model. So the relational development model, which is also known as the NAPS relationship model. It was developed by the communication theorist Mark L. Knapp. So this model describes the stages that uh, any interpersonal relationship typically goes through, from an initial contact to either stabilization or termination. So it provides us a framework for understanding how relationships evolve over time and how the communication patterns associated with each stage occur. So the model contains 10 stages divided into two phases. The first phase is coming together or the escalation phase, and the second phase is coming apart or de-escalation phase. So the coming together or the escalation phase consists of five uh, phases. First is the initiating. So this is the first contact between the individuals. It involves making a favorable first impression through greeting, small talk, or non-verbal cues, and the focus is on following social norms and etiquette. Then we move on to experimenting. So in this stage, individuals begin to probe for more information about each other. They ask questions, share details about themselves, and look for common interests in each other. This stage helps determine if there is potential for further relationship development or not. Then comes the stage intensifying. So the relationship becomes more intimate. Individuals start to reveal more personal information, spend more time together, and develop unique ways of communicating. Then comes the stage of integrating. So the individuals start to develop a shared identity. They are often seen as a pair or part of a same organization or same team or same group, things like that, and they begin to synchronize their behaviors, and they may share possessions or living spaces or working spaces, things like that. Then comes uh, the stage bonding. So this stage involves a public commitment to the relationship. So in romantic relation in like for example, in a romantic relationship, this might be engagement or a marriage, but uh, while we are talking about this development model in context of organizational relationships and things like that, so the bonding in this case might be signing of MOUs, or maybe creation of teams or working groups together, things like that. So this is the coming together uh, part of the relational development. Then is the coming apart or the de-escalation phase. So uh, in this again there are five different stages. The first is uh, differentiating. Individuals begin to reassert their individuality, and they might focus more on differences than similarities, and then they might try to seek more independence within the relationship. Then comes circumscribing. So in this stage, communication becomes more restrictive in both quantity and quality of the communication, and the individuals who are a part of that relationship can begin to set boundaries and limit exchanges on specific topics or contexts. Then comes the phase that is stagnation or stagnating. So the relationship loses its spark and communications become more dutiful rather than meaningful, and uh, uh, individuals may avoid discussing the problems that are occurring in the relationship. Then comes avoiding. So individuals create physical and emotional distance, and uh, they try not to see each other or communicate uh, or start communicating less frequently. And then finally comes the terminating stage. So in this stage, the relationship ends, and it can either happen gradually or abruptly, and may involve even a direct conversation about ending the relationship, or it can happen by simply drifting apart. So this model is valuable for understanding the typical trajectory of relationship and communication behaviors that are associated with each stage. It can help individuals recognize uh, their relationship with their colleagues, with the team that they are working with, where it stands, and it can help them anticipate potential challenges and make informed decisions about maintenance or termination of their relationship with other members. In professional contexts, it is useful for understanding team dynamics, mentoring relationship, and sometimes even client interactions. So I hope it is clear what uh, the relational development model is. Then finally, the question talks about the relationship market. So this is a concept which is based on the principle of social exchange theory, and it applies economic ideas to interpersonal relationships. So in this framework, social relationships are viewed like a marketplace where individuals seek to maximize the benefits that they receive while minimizing the associated costs of relationships. So people approach relationships with the goal of obtaining value, whether in the form of emotional support, companionship, or in the form of shared resources. So just like in a marketplace, individual assesses the rewards and costs of maintaining a relationship and makes a decision based on the perceived balance between the two. So if the benefits outweigh the cost, the relationship is likely to thrive. But if not, people may choose to exit or modify their relationship. This perspective helps people explain behaviors in relationships, highlighting how people weigh their investment, expectation, and the return they get from others in a social economy of exchanges. So that is what relationship market is. So I think it is quite clear now what all the four options of this question are talking about, and it is like, easily understandable what the answer of this question is. So we move on ahead to the next question, which is select the option which lists the four constituents of city image. There are four options: physical, social, economic, and institutional. Physical, infrastructural, environmental, ecological. Physical, social, educational, and economic. And finally, governance, institution, industry, or people. As you remember from the last session also, we discussed this diagram which tells you about the constituents of the city image. And from this diagram itself, I think you can easily answer the question. But additionally, there are certain questions that can help you develop the concept of city image by broadening its understanding beyond just the physical layouts and aesthetics. And these questions can help you uh, create a multi-dimensional exploration how people perceive, experience, and interact with the city. So there are certain questions which can help you do that, which have been listed in the lectures. So these are those questions. So first question is it only physical? This question challenges the notion that a city's image uh, uh, is not solely based on its physical structures. It opens up the idea that city's image is shaped not just by its streets, buildings, and landmarks, but also by people emotionally and psychologically engage with those physical spaces in the city. The second question is, what are the social and cultural elements uh, making the city image? So this prompts consideration of how the social fabric, culture, tradition, and community life shape a city's identity. So it suggests that festivals, social interactions, Historical narratives and cultural practices are integral parts of how a city is perceived and remembered by both residents and visitors. Then finally, then the next question is governance linked with image or how we experience city services? So governance plays a key role in shaping the city's image by determining the quality and accessibility of services like transportation, waste management, public safety, and infrastructure. Efficient or poor governance can significantly influence how people experience and view a city, impacting its reputation for functionality, livability, and trust in public institutions. Then you have the question, which are beautiful or which are ugly or non-functional? So these questions invite people to critically assess the aesthetic and functional aspect of urban spaces. They emphasize that beauty and utility are key components of city image, and that both pleasant and unattractive features contribute to the overall perception of the city. Then you have the question that which are useful or which require modification. So by asking this question about the usefulness and necessary modification, you can focus on how certain parts of the city serve its population. This question suggests that the city image is also shaped by how well the urban environment meets the needs of its inhabitants and which aspects require improvement to better align with those needs. Then the final question, which functions or features do they identify with the city? So this question explores what unique characteristics such as iconic landmarks, distinctive neighborhoods, or specific cultural features do people associate with the city. These features contribute to the city's image by creating a recognizable identity that differentiates it from other cities. So, together, these questions reveal that the image of the city is a complex interplay of physical, social, cultural, and functional elements, all of which shape how individuals perceive and connect with urban environment. They expand the idea of city image from mere physical appearance to include experiential and emotional dimensions. So I think it's quite clear that what constitutes a city image and what components form the city image. And we can answer this question quite easily. So we move on ahead to the next question, which is empathy is a result of which combination of trust and power relations in interpersonal relationships. And four options: low power, low trust, low power, high power, low trust, or high power, high trust. So this question is basically talking about the interpersonal relationship matrix. So the matrix of interpersonal relationship categorizes interactions based on two dimensions. First is trust and second is power. So there are four quadrants, and each of these quadrants illustrate different approaches to relationship depending on the level of trust, how much confidence of or belief you have in the other person, and power, which is the ability to influence or control the other person or situation. So first quadrant, which is high trust and low power. So this quadrant, in this quadrant, trust is high but the power is low. So the dynamic encourages empathy, where one party deeply understands and values the other's perspective even without exerting much influence over them. So since the power is limited, the focus is on creating an emotional connection and supporting the other person and fostering open communication and trust building. So in this case, the relationship is driven by understanding and mutual respect, even though there may be little control or ability to change outcomes. It is a nurturing and supportive interaction. Then coming to the quadrant 2, which is high trust and high power situation. So here both trust and power are high. So this leads to a collaborative relationship where both parties trust each other and have the ability to influence one another, creating a space for cooperation and teamwork. The interaction in this case is marked by mutual respect and shared goals. Each party feels empowered and contributes equally to decisions or outcomes. This quadrant represents an ideal situation for healthy, productive relationship where both trust and power are used constructively for joint problem solving and growth. Then coming to the third quadrant where there is low trust and high power. So in this quadrant, the power is high but trust is low, and this often leads to relationships where one party tries to dominate or control the other party, typically because they do not trust the other person to act in their best interest. So in this approach, the dynamic is authoritarian or controlling, where power is used to overwhelm, suppress, or dominate the other person. So there is little room for dialogue or mutual understanding. This kind of exchange leads to toxic or conflict-ridden relationships where fear or coercion takes the place of trust, and interactions are often aggressive or competitive. Finally, uh, the fourth quadrant, uh, when both trust and power are low, so relationship fall into a state of apathy or avoidance, and neither party trusts the other, and both lack the power to influence or engage effectively. So the interactions are marked by disinterest, disengagement, or avoidance, and there is little investment in the relationship because neither party feels that it is worth the effort or uh, that it has been used to improve it. So this results in stagnant or disengaged relationships where neither party feels motivated to interact meaningfully, often leading to neglect or dissolution of the relationship entirely. So this matrix offers useful framework for understanding the dynamics of interpersonal relationships and how different combinations of trust and power influence behavior and outcomes. So I hope it is quite clear what each of these quadrants reflect. I hope you could understand it. So using this information, I think you can easily solve this question. This was the last question for today. Thank you for listening. I'll wait for some more time to see if anyone joins, if they have any doubts. Otherwise, I'll close the session in some time. So thank you for listening. I'll just wait for some more time and see if anyone has any questions. I think I'll close the session for today. The session will be available for you to access online, and if you have any further questions, you can come to the next session next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Thank you.